Hi all, I'm Deirdre with Second Wind Vintage, and today I'm going to show you how to cut a drawer liner for any drawers that are in a perfectly straight line. Like usually it's a rectangle, it's real simple. You measure and you use your ruler and you got straight. But every once in a while we run into those super fancy dressers that like to be individuals, and they have either a curved or a really curved called Serpentine draw from. And that poses a little bit of a problem when we go to cut our liners because our rulers are not curved. And short of using like a compass and a protractor and getting real technical with it, or shoving it in and like messing about with it, maybe ripping, getting wrinkles, etc. How do you do it? Well, answer is actually simpler than you think. So I'm going to show you how to do that today. What you're going to need is the drawer liner of your choice. I'm a big fan of Wallpaper, especially the peel and stick kind. This one isn't, so I'm going to have to glue it down. That's totally fine. So you need your liner. You're going to need a ruler. You're going to need a helper. Maybe not a helper. She doesn't really help. More so yells at me and tells me I miss spots. Scissors, obviously. A pencil as opposed to a pen. And your crazy rebel drawers. Okay, so first thing you do, you roll it out. And they always want to stay rolled up. Drives me absolutely up the wall. So I always use paint cans or something to keep them open. Let's make sure you got it. Can you go away, please? Not for you. She wants attention. Okay, so got it laid out. First thing we do is we take our drawer and we're gonna trace it onto our paper. No measuring yet, which is always nice. I'm real bad at measuring numbers, anything like that. Not really a fan. Okay, so we're gonna trace. I like to line up my edges with the edges. That lets me get it as straight as possible. Because we're cutting it, and if it's a little cockeyed, that's not the end of the world. It's just better for using up as much paper as you can. Okay, so let me get those straight. Oh yeah, and I will say, because we're going to be cutting this with a scissor, I think you know it's not going to be a completely smooth go. It won't be totally perfect. So before you lay down your liner, you might want to take a little bit of paint that matches or complements or whatever, and just put down a little stripe in the front. This way, if you have like a little like dip out or something like that from your cutting, it's not going to be so apparent. It's not going to look weird. Like wood's going to stick out like a sore thumb unless you got like a brown one. If you got a white one, put like a little strip of white. Like this is like a gray, so I'm going to put like a little strip of gray before I actually do it. Okay, so first thing we do is we trace out our drawer. And because I lined it up with the sides, I only have to do the front swooshy bit and the side, this one side, which is always nice. And also I'm doing this on the back of the paper. If your drawer is symmetrical, so it swooshes exactly the same on both sides, you can do it on the back. If it comes out in a weird way, like these two are mirror images of each other, this side comes out more. If you got two drawers or an even amount of drawers that are mirror images of each other, you can do it on the back side of the paper. But if you have one of those dressers that have like serpentine drawers, a bank of cabinets, and a cubby, so there's no drawer that's a mirror image of the drawer that's not symmetrical, you need to do it on the front of your paper. Because we're going to trace, and we're going to flip it over, and then the side that comes out more is going to be the opposite of what you traced. So if you have an even amount of drawers that aren't symmetrical and that are mirror images of each other, that's fine. You just switch the liners. But if you don't have that, oops. So whenever possible, do it on the back because we're going to be drawing lines and erasing. You know, sometimes you have to do it the other way. That's just the joy of serpentine drawers. Okay, so we traced this. So I'm just going to stand this up to the side so you can maybe see. Okay, so we're not done because the space that we traced is not, let me just put this back here so it doesn't roll off on me, is too big for the space that's inside because we have the sides of the drawers are included in this, the front part is included in this, so now we have to measure to see what those extra bits are, put them on here, and then we're going to cut from that second cut. Okay, so the runners, the sides, are an extra 1/4 of an inch. I'm just going to say half. It's a little bit more, but always, if you got like a weird, if it's not on like an even 1/4, half, full inch, I always do it so I'm going to have a little bit extra to play because you can always trim it off, cut that off at the end if you make a mistake. If you go the other way, you can't. Okay, so this, what did I say? I'm talking, I don't remember. Okay, so this is 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to go ahead and measure it on both sides, my 1/4 of an inch. And don't just do it once, because we want to get this as straight as possible. So the more hashes you make at 1/4 of an inch, the easier it is to draw out that straight line and have it be accurate. So don't be stingy with it. Do a bunch. And then you take your ruler, you line them up, and you draw your new straight line. And make sure your ruler doesn't get any funny ideas and go sideways. That happens to me sometimes because I get too enthusiastic. Okay, so once you draw your new line, erase the old one. That's why I like to use pencil. I mean, chances are you're going to remember which one's the correct line. And you don't have to go crazy. Like I can still see the line, but it's obvious that is no longer the correct line to follow. It just, when you're doing stuff, minimize the amount of chances you're going to have to make your mistake. Okay. I'm going to do it, I'm going to move this over to this side as well. Right. So we got, and also if you have a longer ruler, obviously use your longer ruler. I picked my little one because one, it's totally possible to use it if you have a little one, and I wanted to show you don't need special stuff. But also I have this big giant thing here and this thing here and the less giant things I'm whipping around, the better. So then I have to don't worry about getting things in the shot and all that. Okay. So that was easy. We got our sides. But we still have this curvy business we gotta deal with. But it's pretty much, it's just as easy. We're just not gonna use this to draw a line. We're gonna use this again to draw our line. So we measure how big it is. Again, it's a weird number because that's how my life is going today. It is 3/4. And on this curvy side, do as many as you can. Like each point, you're gonna want one definitely each dip, and then like one in between, because you really want to be as accurate as possible, and the more lines you got, the more accurate. And just line up your 0 line with it. See how my, okay, you can't see that one. See, I'm going to do it over here. This is not straight. It's not going to be straight because we're lining up this with this weird curvy line. Okay. So pop those on real quick. And again, the more this phase, the better, the easier it's going to be to line our stuff up. Okay, so it might seem tedious and annoying and why am I doing it, but the more you have, the less grief you're going to have in like 2 minutes. So just put them on, trust me. Alright, one more. Yep, that should be good. Alright, we're going to use this as our template. So I'm going to bring it back down again, and I'm going to line up this with our 50 million dots we just put down on the paper. And you can use your drawn lines as a guide. And yeah, bigger drawers are annoying because they're harder because you get one side lined up perfectly and then your other side is, and you fix that side, and then the other side gets funny ideas. And also the good part about being really lax about erasing your old line is I can see it, and I'm kind of lining this up with that old line. So, okay, this can go up a little bit more. And again, if it's a little bit over, so it's a little bit bigger, that's acceptable because we can always take away, we can't really put back. Okay, so I have it pre-lined up. I'm happy with it. I'm going to do my final cut line for this. Turn away. All right, there we go. Got that. But also, we have one more cut to make because this has a little tail. So I have to measure that and take it off the back. Half the time I forget about this part, and then I go to put the drawer liner in, like, why is it too big? That's why it's too big. So I'm going to measure this guy and do one last edit to the back. And a lot of times this back tail, if you have a back tail, isn't going to be straight because it's the back. You don't see it when the drawer's in, you don't see it when you open it, so they didn't care. So just kind of find your smallest spot, and we can adjust from there later when it's in the drawer. Okay, it's an inch. So just gonna put it all here. And also the good part about starting from an edge. Like, this is totally straight. I've never cut this as it was cut in the factory. It's gonna be perfect, cool. But the spot over here that I did cut kind of looks like a dog got to it because, I don't know, I think I had like a bunch of like little stuff I cut out of there. So it's not totally straight. So like if your end of the roll is really messed up like that, you can always draw a straight line and begin again, and use that as your first piece. Mine wasn't that bad, I could kind of tell. Okay, so I'm just gonna, and I'm putting the ruler down so it touches all the little dots I drew. So that's why you put a bunch of dots, because the fewer dots you have, the more chance you mismeasured one and your line is going to go wonky. This one, it's kind of like, you obviously, you know when one's weird because you did like 6. Okay. So, all right, we're done with our drawing out. I'm not going to bother. I can't erase that. What do I say? I was going to say I'm not going to bother to erase that. Okay. So now we cut out. So yeah, if there's like little bits, it's easier to do those guys first, because then your paper isn't wiggling all over the place. I mean, you could use a ruler and put down like your T-square and use an X-Acto knife, and whoosh, you could do that. I'm not going to, but if that's how you usually do your other your drawers, that's totally fine. Nothing wrong with it. And I found when cutting to use the whole length of the scissor, it gets a nicer, less choppy cut. And if you're like struggling with your paper, it's doing weird things and you're trying to cut it, deal with your paper. Make it behave before you start cutting, because if you start cutting when it's being all jerk-like, it's going to really affect the straightness of your lines, how well you cut, and it's important to get it as nice as possible, especially when you have a bunch of serpentine drawers. I'll get to that in a minute. Okay, so I'm up to this part. I'm going to move just because it's easier to like hold it up and go like this. So yeah, so you really can't use a protractor or a T-square, not a protractor, sorry, a T-square to use a razor blade on this. I mean, you could, I guess, use your drawer, but I feel like that's a little bit of a risky business. So I'm just gonna paint that little stripe, so if I have any non-perfection, that looks fine. Okay. Then I'm really paying attention here. I'm really trying to stay on the line, trying to get a smooth cut, because it's worth doing that, especially with the first one. So, alright, there we go. We have our drawer liner. Always test it before you do anything else, before you put down your adhesive. Always test it. No matter what, because you might need to make adjustments, and right now making adjustments are no big deal. We're just gonna fix it. If the glue is down and you half stuck it and it's not working, then you're kind of under the gun, and that's not good. Okay. So bring it down. I got a little extra over here, a little extra over there, because I am bad at measuring, as I said. But I got it down. It's in. I can trim that off, which I'm going to do after. Yeah, that fits in. I have a couple little I don't know if you can see, but I gotta go across. I'm gonna use a razor blade to do that after I glue it down, because it's just easier. I got the straight edge. If I tried to measure and cut again, it's probably not going to be perfect because I'm bad at measuring. So I'm going to fix it after I glue it down, pretty much. So, but I don't want to lift it by something I shouldn't. But you can see it's a pretty good, it fits right in there. There's like one or two little areas that are peeking through. You can see, oh, that's wood. But I'm gonna paint that the gray, so you're not gonna be able to notice. Okay, so that was kind of, I mean, it's a possible thing. It's kind of annoying because you're not just like boom, 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 and you're done. A shortcut would be you measure one out, you get it nice, you get it as perfect as you can. So if I was going to use and then use it as a template. So if I was going to do that, I would trim this up, get it as perfect as I can. And then instead of doing the rigmarole dance with the tracing and then the measuring and then the tracing, the next drawer, I'm just gonna trace my template. If you do that though, it is super important that you pick one and trace all the others from that one. Because if I traced one with this, glued it in, then used my new one to trace the next one, glued it in, used that one to trace, etc., down the line, each time you trace, it's going to be slightly off. It's just going to happen. And you're not going to notice if you use one the same time, because it's all going to be slightly off. But if you use a different one each time, that slightly off is going to get worse and worse and worse until at the end it's going to be completely messed up, kind of like the game telephone or inbreeding. So if you are tracing, designate one. You are my tracer, and you only trace from that one, obviously. So yeah, so that was it. I'm gonna get to gluing. Thank you for joining me. Hopefully that made serpentine in both front and weird individual front drawers a little easier to deal with, and I hope I inspired you to try it. All right, have fun.